In a previous set of videos, I spoke about 4 HTTP methods for CRUD actions. These are POST for creating data, GET for fetching data, PUT for updating data, and DELETE for deleting data. In particular, PUT was used to update data on a server, or more specifically, PUT was used to replace existing data from the server. Now the question was, what if we don't want to replace the data but just update a certain portion of that data or make partial updates to this data? The original HTTP specification RFC 2616 did not have an answer for this. The patch method was introduced in RFC 5789 to address this requirement, and in this video we will briefly look into this method. A typical HTTP patch request is as follows. Let's say the client fetches some data on a user Alice. The client sends a GET request on this path, and the server sends a response with some data to the client. Now, the typical response might look something like this. For your reference, these sections are start line, the headers, and the body. And in this example, the body is a JSON object with 4 fields, being the ID, the name, the email, and the age. If the client wants to now update only the age field, the client can send a patch request to the server, and the request might look something like this. The body contains only the field that actually needs to be updated, in this case the age, so we're going to update that from 25 to 27, and we are going to send this request to the server. If the request is valid and the client is authenticated, the server updates this in its database and sends a response to the client. This response can have multiple implementations. In one case, the server might just send a 200 OK response with the entire body of the user, including the update, or it could only send the field that was updated, or even send a 204 no content response, which indicates to the client that the update was successful, but it needs to do a separate GET to get the new data. There are many possible errors with HTTP patch, and RFC 5789 recommends certain HTTP response codes for these. So the 400 and 404 response codes are common for multiple HTTP requests. So if the request is bad, or if the resource that is requested to be updated was not found, you get 400 and 404 respectively. Multiple patch requests modifying the same data gives you a 409 conflict. Sometimes the client can define a precondition necessary to modify this data. If this condition failed, the server can return a 412 or precondition failed response. The client sometimes can try to modify a field that does not exist. So for example, in our case, we had only 4 fields, and if the client requested to update a 5th field, for example address, which is non-existent, the client can then send a 409 conflict response.